Let's hit it. Welcome, first time listeners and returners, to the Sports Deli, where everyone deserves a seat at the table. We're now joined by an incredibly positive person who loves to help others domestically and abroad, and whose experiences range from growing up with a guy named Irvin to playing college ball for a coach named Jud. He played professional basketball with a few guys named Scotty, Larry, and Michael, while coaching pros like Dirk, Jerry, and D3 sensation Devin. When he was the head coach of Michael Jordan's Charlotte Bobcats in 2008, he coached current Los Angeles Laker backup forward Jared Dudley, and whose high school jersey number 45 was the reason his good friend Michael Jordan, when he came back to the NBA after playing baseball, chose that number. He was Mr. Basketball in Michigan in 1981, an All-American at Michigan State in 1985, and an NBA champion with the Boston Celtics in 1986. Sam Vincent of Lansing, Michigan's Eastern High School, who had an 847-mile trip today from Washington, D.C. to his home in Florida. Welcome to the Sports Deli.
I'll tell you what, Michael, out of all the things you mentioned, 147-mile trip from that really stands out. None of the other All-American, any of the great players, and none of that stuff right now. It's just, man, that was a long trip, and glad to be home, and of course happy to join you on your podcast.
Well, to be involved in a peace agreement with Bahrain and Israel, I mean, that is just something that's incredible. I read about it, but I had no idea that you were involved in it. That's, just incredible.
Well, I've been fortunate. The last 5 years, I've been coaching in Bahrain, coaching in their professional league. And the last 2 of those 5 years, I've had a little bit of a double duty in doing the pro league and the national team. And as the national team coach, it opened up some relationships with the government and certain members of the royal family.
Amazing.
And so obviously, everybody's pretty excited about the historic peace agreement with the UAE and Israel. So on their trip over, some of those folks were in the delegation, and it gave me a chance to go down and just kind of see it up close. And it was a fantastic opportunity to be connected to such a historic event.
Wow, if that's not a reason to go to school and get your education, and you have no idea when you're planning your life, when you're in high school and in college, what things can lead to. And we've talked to a lot of people, Steve Lavin and Jay Billis and Seth Greenberg and Craig Esherick, and they all talk about how they were planning one thing and something completely different, ended up being the result as a result of just making whatever they were doing in that moment the best thing and following their compass and their inner voice. And what a testament to you, from where you came from, in Lansing, Michigan, to being a part of a peace agreement. Like, forget all the basketball stuff. Like, what a testament to when you're planning your life, or what you think your life should be or is going to be as a student athlete, and you're just following your inner voice and your compass and making whatever you're doing in that moment the most important thing in your life, and you don't know what's going to happen next, and being present. And it led you to so many things, which we'll talk about in a little while. But to be a part of something like that is such a huge part of your legacy, probably something you're as proud of, if not more, than some of the basketball stuff as you get older.
Well, the journey through college basketball and the NBA as a player, and then as a coach, and then of course internationally, I've had a chance to coach in Africa, several national teams, had a chance to coach in Europe. Wonderful opportunity to come back and coach in the NBA with the Mavericks, and of course in Charlotte with Michael Jordan. And now, like I mentioned, in the Middle East. But that like you mentioned, that's a natural path for me. The opportunity to leverage some of those accomplishments to create another platform in a space around youth development, community development, is something that is you're right, just kind of following the opportunities that all of a sudden are created. And so when I took off, Michael, and went to Bahrain in the Middle East, I had some trepidation because, you know, there's so many stories about what the Middle East is all about, and you hear about the Muslim extremists, and, you know, there's such a picture that gets created sometimes about the Middle East. But I can honestly say, after being there for the amount of time that I spent there as a coach, I never had any problems. The people were fantastic. And now to be a part of something that I believe there's going to be a lot of chances to support, that peace agreement is the sign of something I think is pretty fantastic. So you hear a lot about, Muslim extremists when you think about the Middle East. And prior to going over, there was some concerns just about, you know, is it safe culturally? What kind of challenges will I be facing? But I can honestly tell you, I had a great experience. The people were fantastic. And then, of course, the chance to be connected to something as historic as what's going on now is really pretty special.
You know, 2020 has obviously been a challenging year on so many levels. And, you know, you're working with the youth now, which I want you to share with everyone exactly what you're doing with the AAU. You know, the racial reckoning, the pandemic, all the coaches that have passed away this year, RBG passing away this week, you know, and you're naturally a half glass full kind of guy. You know, how's this year taken its toll on you, and how have you been able to maintain such a positive attitude? I've heard you on other podcasts. You know, there's a famous guy in East Lansing you go on with all the time, and you're always just finding, you know, the good in everything. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, you know, I think it's important. You know, I think from all of my international travel, I've had a chance to see that no matter where you are, there are some less fortunate than you. And if you really understand that and you think about it, then it'll help you always be a little bit more grateful of what you do have and not, you know, focus so much on what you don't have. And so for me, I really try to carry as much of a positive attitude into every day as possible, and try to find ways to be supportive. You know, primarily my focus is around a lot of youth development initiatives, and you just kind of touched on that. I've had a great opportunity to connect with the AAU and support some new initiatives that they're trying to get off the ground. So, you know, I think we're always blessed if we're here and we've got family and we've got the basics, and I try to keep that approach daily.
All right, we'll forward to your second half.
Well, talk a little bit about family, because, you know, you're from Lansing, Michigan. Obviously, you grew up with Magic Johnson, you know, being a big part of your life. And, you know, what was it like growing up in East Lansing and in Lansing? Because you were there, obviously, through your brother was born in Kalamazoo, I think, wasn't he? But,
right.
You know, you for the most part, yeah. But you were there a long time, including your Michigan State years. What was it like growing up there? Who were your big influences besides your older brother? And, you know, how was it, you know, growing up there and you know, being around Magic Johnson? I know you didn't give him his nickname. It was a reporter that did that. But did you guys have other nicknames for him?
Well, I don't have any other nicknames for him. And that one he actually got pretty late, his senior year in high school. He had done some incredible things before then, but kind of like all of a sudden in one game, it just clicked and he became Magic from there. But Lansing was a fantastic small city kind of environment, and everybody pretty much knew each other. My family was really, really pretty tight. Basketball became something in 1977, I remember closely, at 14 years old, that I decided I was going to pick up and get serious about after attending a high school basketball game between my older brother Jay and Magic, who were, you know, kind of crosstown rivals. After that game, which was incredibly exciting, because at that time in Lansing, we were getting 10,000 fans at high school basketball games when these guys played. So coming out of that game into the enthusiasm, the excitement was something that really piqued my interest, and kind of developed a love for the game of basketball, and I never looked back from there. Some just incredible, cherished memories of growing up in Lansing and then staying and going on to Michigan State, and my family's still there, and I get back as often as I can.
Sam, question for you. You were first round draft pick of this, one of the, what I think, and I'm not even a Celtics fan, but I think it has to go down as one of the greatest NBA teams ever, the 85-86 Celtics. And what was it like going to your first practice? You're you're an All-American, number one draft pick, and you go to your first Celtics practice. What was that experience like?
Man, it was a great experience. It really was. Coming out of Michigan State and thinking about the draft, all the places I thought I might have been going to, the Celtics probably was one of the places I didn't think I'd be going to. But I do remember that first day in practice looking at Larry Bird and thinking to myself, it was only a few years ago that you were playing against Michigan State in the NCAA finals, and I was cheering for Magic Johnson. So it was a little bit of an interesting dynamic, but you quickly learn all of the nostalgia and the history when you step in the Boston Garden. And that was a fantastic feeling, just having a chance to be a part of such an incredible sports organization.
I wanted to follow up. One of the players that many people forget that was on that team was Rick Carlisle. Was a reserve on that team. Did you ever think he'd go on to be the NBA coach he has become today, winning a title and being in the league for a record number of years? He's one of the elder statesmen as coaches go in the NBA.
No, I never would have thought Rick Carlisle with the coaching career that he has. And when I say that, Rick was a good player. He was a heady player. He was, coming out of Virginia. They had incredible success during his college days. And there in Boston, he wasn't the exceptional, fast, athletic kind of guy, but he thought the game out and came in and really played a very functional role for the team. So you could see that he, thought on the floor and had, obviously some coaching skills, but I don't think at that time we're ever thinking far enough in advance to understand where guys are going to go and what their futures are going to be.
So you go from the Celtics to go play with Michael Jordan, and I don't know how many people have been a part of Michael, Magic, and Larry in the intimate ways that you have. It's just mind blowing. How was it? Because that was the Bad Boys year, as you see back here, right? And yes. How was it? During those times when Michael was trying to break through.
I think those were fun years. Larry and Michael and Larry and Magic had pretty much established themselves as the guys that had turned the league around and started this new excitement and incredible playoff runs and real serious rivalry. And then Michael came a little bit later and kind of topped it up. So to have the chance to play with all three of those guys, growing up with Irvin and then getting drafted to Boston and playing with Chicago, it was a real treat. A lot of the coaching that I've developed, I take some aspects of that time just because the way they approached the game was so special. Their focus, their work ethic, there's so many synergies within their games, but at the same time, quite different kind of guys on the floor. But it was a special time. I really enjoyed it. And three of the best to ever play the game.
Sam, what was going on in the Celtics huddle in '86 when Jordan dropped 63 at the Garden? What was both during the timeouts and at halftime? Because we saw the documentary and there were a few comments, but I think some of those were maybe PG-13. You were there. I mean, you were literally, and you got to see that. And like you said, it was Jordan's coming out party, which is what everybody has said. That game was Jordan's coming out party. Just curious what was going on, from the discussions.
There was a lot of Panamanian going on in that. It was hectic. There was screaming, there was finger pointing. We're in the middle of a battle, and I think even at some point I got tossed in that game. Casey tried to figure out if I could shut him down. It was crazy. For us during that time, it was very hectic because we had no solution for stopping him. As a basketball player, being there and watching it was witnessing one of the most, magnificent appearances of all time. So I remember the game. I still see some of the shots. It's a fantastic game by an incredible player.
And then moving on to the 87 season, the Celtics had drafted Len Bias. And obviously, I grew up in D.C. area, so I was very familiar. And we actually talked with Dave Billis about the impact of Bias and everything. What was the feeling knowing Bias was, Red Auerbach was very connected to Bias, knowing that you were drafting Bias, and then just days later seeing him die? What did you see on the impact with the Celtics the next few years?
Well, there was a large level of disappointment from everybody in the organization. When Len Bias came to Boston to do his interview, at the end of the day, I got a call from Jan Volk, who was the general manager at that time, and he asked me to pick him up and take him out to a Red Sox baseball game, and then grab dinner and drop him at the airport. So I think I was probably one of the last members of the Boston Celtics organization to see him. So I airport, and, we all know that he went back and, kind of, celebrated maybe a little bit too much with some friends and got into some things that ended his life. It was a difficult time for the Celtics. We had so much anticipation that he would come in and play a very large role in getting back to another championship. And so everybody was devastated. And I've seen a lot of the stories, just on how it devastated his family, his mom, his dad. They never really got over the hurt from that loss, as well as I don't think the Celtics organization did. Between that and then the loss of Reggie Lewis, which that really were tough for the organization.
I never heard that story about going out with. Talk about what was like going to the game with him, going around town. What was he like? I always took him to be relatively shy from people I knew that knew, but that doesn't mean, I was just curious what your interaction was like and what was the experience like going with him around Boston?
Our interaction was great. He was a fairly quiet guy off the court, but on the court, he played with a lot of energy. He played with a lot of passion. A very exciting player. Anybody who's being compared to, somebody like Michael or the best in the league at that time, obviously has to have a pretty tremendous skill set. So he was someone who was expected to come in and right off the bat and have a major impact. And I remember that day getting around, again, the baseball game and everybody coming up and welcoming him and just really excited that he was going to be a part of the community. And then that night at dinner, he was just really pumped about the fact that he was going to join the organization, and it was only going to be days before the draft. And so, it was just a complete circle of being very excited about the chance to meet him and spend some time. And then just a few days later, finding out that, nope, that's not going to happen, that he passed away. So, just a difficult time, again, for the community of Boston.
Sam, sort of in that same school of thought, I know you've talked about it on social media, the death of Chadwick Boseman, and Kobe. How did that impact you, maybe compared to Lenny's death? It's obviously a different time in your life, but Talk about those couple of things and the impact in the community.
Well, I mean, you're talking about guys that are icons. Clearly, Kobe was an icon for not only the Lakers, but for basketball in general. And not only as an ambassador for the NBA, but he was a global figure. I mean, there was a lot of people that really mourned his loss. So that was a very difficult time. Of course, Chadwick, again, an icon, someone who had been going through some incredible adversity for a long time, but still was finding a way to be a professional and be at the top of his game. So those losses are like any losses. They're impactful. They hurt the community. I think as Black icons that a lot of kids look up to and really feel are role models that they aspire to be like. It's difficult, but I wouldn't put it in any specific classification in terms of the mourning, because I think those guys were heroes and celebrities across all races, and so they're missed. But I think their legacies will live on because of the work that they did that was so incredible in their communities.
Sam, I wanted to go back to your coaching career, and my question for you was, what was a harder experience, going from the '86 Celtics to the expansion Magic, or coaching the Charlotte Bobcats with the roster you were given? And I gotta be honest, Sam. I read that and I'm like, and I went back. I don't know how you won 32 games with that team. I could go through the roster, and when your biggest acquisition in the offseason was Richardson from the Michigan State, who did you no favors, by the way. I was like, 32 games. And I can say that because I'm an old Bullets fan, so I know bad basketball. But so I think I commend you for the 32 wins you got out of that team, all seriousness.
I really appreciate that comment. A couple of things that you probably still didn't even factor into that was the year before they won 32 games, but they had Sean May, and he was their leading scorer. He tore up his knee that season before I got to Charlotte, and never played one game for us. And Primoz Brezic was their starting center. Had some issues back in Croatia or whatever, and went back home and didn't play a game for the Bobcats until somewhere right at the end of the season. So we lost two of their main starters, Primoz and right or wrong, our draft pick that year, Jared Dudley was a pretty good player. Probably not your most athletic, but a solid player. And of course, the year before that was Adam Morrison. So we look at the roster. We did not have one of the top teams in the league, and I think if you look at the salaries, we actually were number like 29 in salaries in the league. Yet we finished with a pretty solid season, and we lost some games right there at the end that we really had a chance to win. So when I think about your question, and I think about that Celtics, I think about the Magic, and I think about that Bobcats team, man, those were three incredible kind of years. But I look at it as, even though there were some challenges, just what a blessing to be in the NBA and having a chance to do something that I love to do and do it from a playing standpoint and a coaching standpoint. Just no matter how difficult it was, I'll always feel blessed to have had that opportunity.
You were coached by some really amazing people and coached with some amazing coaches. Casey Jones, Doug Collins, Bernie Bickerstaff. Jud Heathcote is a legend, obviously, Michigan State. Tom Izzo was his assistant. Talk about the influence of those guys, not only on the hardwood, but, off the court as well, and the relationships that you've maintained all these years.
Well, I think, first of all, you're right. all of those guys were incredible coaches. The last guy I think you mentioned, Tom Izzo, was a grad assistant when I was there, and Jud Heathcote was the head coach.
Wow.
And Coach Heathcote was incredible. Took that '79 NCAA championship, and what Tom has done at Michigan State has been phenomenal. I mean, he's just really taken Michigan State on up to another level. And then, Doug Collins in Chicago, and Phil Jackson was the assistant coach during that time. And then of course, Jones, Olympic player, and again, a champion there with the Celtics. So I really feel fortunate to have had a chance to work with each of those coaches. There's a lot of things that I've taken from their styles, how they work with the players, they're focused on pregame, but more importantly, how they handle postgame. So I've had the fortunate ability to pull a little bit from here and there and create a style that has been pretty successful. But all of those guys were just Hall of Fame coaches and really made an incredible impact on the game.
What's your style?
I would say my style is defense oriented. I'm really a guy that puts a lot of time into really trying to defend the ball well and minimize easy shot opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And then offensively, I like to get out and run. A little bit of a fast break style, but very controlled. So, some of the NBA game that I see today doesn't seem to have a whole lot of control. It just kind of moves fast and quick threes, and that's kind of where the game has evolved to. But I'm still a little bit old school in that sense, and I just believe that even though times change and years go by, some of the good old school basketball that they used to play, where the ball went into the post and you had to cut off the post, and big guys played on the inside. They didn't do crossovers and shoot threes. They actually posted up down low and tried to shoot jump hooks or drop steps to the basket.
Joel Embiid.
Joel.
So,
Sam, the whole list of them.
Yeah.
Sam, another question in regards to coaching. A terminology that's come out more mainstream now. You hear about white privilege. Would you take Steve Nash getting the Nets head coaching job as white privilege?
No, I wouldn't. And I've heard that comment, and I heard a lot of things that have been said, and I haven't agreed with it. I think that every NBA team wants to win, and every staff is looking for someone, whether it's an ex-player or not, that can come in and have the skill set to organize the group, motivate the group, and share experiences that can help the team win games, period. And so for me, if the staff or the organization has identified someone, irregardless of what color they are, that they feel has the ability to move that team in a positive direction, then I think they have the right to make that selection. So I've heard the comments, and I think Steve's going to do a fantastic job. He knows the game. He stayed connected to basketball. And I think that purely is the choice of the organization making the decision.
So sort of along those same lines, we could talk in another podcast about it a lot, but, the racial reckoning, we've had Dr. Richard Lapchick on, we've had a lot of coaches talking about it. And, we've wanted to be a part of the solution in our platform as much as we can. And we've taken ownership as white Jewish men, that a big part of what's going on is our responsibility and moving forward. And what can we do? We've done a lot of listening, in your opinion, to change the systemic racism that's going on, whether it's in sports or, outside of sports in society and in everyday kind of situation.
I think everybody's got to just, try their best to share more information and to really develop some sincere, genuine care about the fact that it requires teamwork to build a community, to build a team, a society, a country. And to do that, it takes strong leadership and everybody willing to be on some page that is consistent with bringing everybody along. And I really believe that if at the leadership levels at the top, that kind of focus is implemented nationally, then it's a win-win-win for everybody. And I think everybody's got family and kids and lives in a community, and the more we can make life peaceful and calm for all, the better it is for everyone. So hopefully there can just be more discussion around how that can happen. To me, that's how it takes place. Is it begins with communication and discussion on what needs to happen, and then real solutions have to be figured out.
How proud are you of the fraternity of the NBA and the sorority of the WNBA for what they've done to not just paint the courts and, want to talk about it and move the conversation forward, but to really be thoughtful in what they're doing and share that, with the public, to educate them, to change the narrative in this country?
Well, I'm proud of the effort. I really am. I think, I think it takes a lot of communication. It takes a lot of support. And I think, finger pointing doesn't help. It takes real hard discussion and real genuine, sincere belief that, progress can be made that will benefit everybody. And so I'm proud of the fact that the NBA and the players support that, and the WNBA and other sports organizations as well. And not pointing any finger at any group or anyone, just honestly saying that I think everything is better for everybody as people find ways to work together and really care about each other.
A couple more things, and I really appreciate your time considering the long day that you've had, but you were vice president of the National Basketball Retired Players Association, which includes not just the men, but the women. And I know they're involved in a lot of clinics and things like that, but, talk about your involvement with them. And really, I want to talk about how the percentages have been shared with us on many occasions, how within 5 years, professional athletes are broke. And this is a huge problem. And, what does that organization do to help, those former players to make better decisions and help them with their futures?
Well, first of all, my role with the RPA was to increase membership. And so we have probably about, about 800 members currently in the RPA, and we've got a universe of about 1,200. So
wow.
We're find new, innovative, creative ways to get the guys involved, and then we try to find programs that are meaningful and sustainable to help improve their lives. And so my job within the organization was finding different ways to motivate the guys to join, which we had an increase during the time that I was there. And then once the guys get in, a lot of the younger guys feel like the Retired Players Association is for the old guys, and that's been a little bit of a challenge from time to time to get some of the more recently retired players to actually get involved and get engaged. But recently we brought Grant Hill on to the board.
Wow.
Sam Perkins has joined.
Awesome.
So we start connecting some guys, and then I buy, new programs and new things that might interest them to want to get involved and stay involved. The second part of your question, I think, financially, it's such a hit and miss kind of situation. And I say that because not wanting to take the pressure off the guys, but a lot of times in professional sports, and not only in basketball, you wind up getting involved with investors or professionals that sometimes don't always have the best interests of the players at heart. So most of these guys that are 21, 22, 23, 25 years old don't really come from financial backgrounds. So they end up trusting people who are not always trustworthy. So too many times, a lot of the people who are involved to really, support and take these guys in positive directions end up being the ones that undercut them and leave them in sometimes difficult situations. I think now in the last 5 to 10 years, we're seeing less and less of that, fortunately, because I think the NBA has begun to implement more programs to provide more awareness around whether it's banking or finance or investment. The NBA has taken a more active role in trying to really support and assist the guys to make good decisions. And I think as that continues to happen and the NBA gets more involved and the RPA gets more involved so that there's some real hand-holding when a guy is playing, and then when he leaves the league, there's some structured programs in place to say, hey, this is how we can make sure that you maintain your wealth and move into positive directions, then situations will improve. And luckily, I think there's more and more focus and attention on that now than there was in the past.
All right, last question before we get to the this or that, the fun part of the podcast. You grew up with Magic. And I'm just curious, when he announced that he had HIV, it's one of those things where you sort of remember where you were. And how proud are you of him and what he's done for not only people of color, but just the way that he has handled his life 30 years post-HIV. And, people don't even talk about that anymore. They talk about him as a businessman, as an owner of the Dodgers. I mean, you grew up with him. Your brother won a national championship with him at Michigan State. Like, him intimately. Like, how incredibly proud are you of him?
Well, first of all, I was disappointed when he made the announcement. I was in New York. We were actually getting ready to play a game against the Knicks, and he was cross town making the announcement. So I was disappointed, shocked, found it pretty unbelievable. I had no, like anybody else, I had no inclination or no reason to believe that, that would be happening to Irvin. So that was tough. That was a tough moment. Someone that I've always looked up to, making such a devastating announcement. But I have to give him incredible claps or whatever you want to call it at his ability to, not hang his head, not be depressed. He's continued to be Magic, and I saw him this past summer out in LA. I was in his office, and we were talking about just a few different things that we're looking at doing together. And I can honestly say that one of the comments that I heard him make maybe a year or two ago was that when he made that announcement in that year, many years ago, his comment today was, yeah, but there's been a lot of people that have died and I'm still here. So he's a real testament to the fact that even though something very, very difficult happened and it was a major adversity, he's continued to live his life in a positive way. And he's on to become, like you said, a very successful business guy, family man, and has done very well. So I'm very proud of him still today.
Doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion. All right, let's get to the this or that segment. All right, here we go. Put your seatbelts on, folks. All right. Favorite food that makes you dance?
Chicken.
Wow. Favorite song at a family reunion?
Family Affair.
If someone was playing you in a movie for a day in the life of Sam Vincent, who would it be?
Denzel Washington.
Okay. Scott Skiles or your brother, Jay Vincent? Say that one more time.
I got to go with my brother, Jay Vincent.
There you go. Yes, he's got a national title. Scott was great. You played with him in two different places. You played with him at State and in Orlando, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good player.
Yeah, really good player. Coach, too, for a while. Pancakes, waffles, or French toast?
I'm going with waffles all day long.
Oh, God. John, please tell him the story because we got to hear it one more time.
I'm a big fan of Waffle House out there. And if you're going to go to a Waffle House, you go with the All-American. And a hidden secret at Waffle House, for $125, if you order, you can order, they'll double up the waffles. It's not on the menu. You have to tell them, and they'll always give it to you. So you're looking at $8.50. You're getting a double waffle combo with hash, coffee, and a side of toast. You cannot go wrong.
You're telling me anything I don't know. I'm a fan. All I can say, I'm a fan of the Waffle House.
Oh, man. Cutting grass or shoveling snow?
Cutting grass for sure.
LeBron or MJ?
I got to stick with MJ.
Yeah. What do you miss more, a Polaroid camera or payphones?
Polaroid camera.
Good times or what's happening?
I'm going to go with good times.
When you were driving back today from D.C. with your better half from D.C. to Florida, what was your favorite song that you were singing out loud?
Oh man, I didn't have a favorite song. I was doing an audio book.
Wow.
I did Rage today, the book by Woodard on President Trump.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay, fair enough. All in the Family or Sanford and Son?
Sanford and Son.
Hulk or Spider-Man?
I got to go with Spider-Man.
Okay, well then the next round is Spider-Man or Batman?
I got to go with Batman.
There we go. Hong Kong Phooey or Scooby-Doo?
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Burgers or hot dogs?
Woo, never either, but I'd go with a burger.
Are you vegetarian?
Pretty much.
Wow, really? You're the second person that's dropped that bomb on us. That's very interesting. How long has that gone on?
Oh man. Years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did it change your inflammation levels and your energy levels? Like,
energy levels went up.
Wow.
Blood pressure went down.
Hey, let's go. Preach. Price is Right or Family Feud?
Family Feud. Steve Harvey.
Man, that guy. Hangman or tic-tac-toe?
Hangman.
Barbecue or Chinese food?
Chinese.
Favorite meal?
Pizza.
Wow, you've went with chicken and then pizza and Chinese. So wow, that's interesting. Euro or floater?
Euro.
What was your favorite go-to move in college and the pros, and what move would you work on now if you had to expand your game from one year to the next?
Mid-range jump shot.
Yes. And would you work on the step back, the Larry Bird step back? Larry Bird had the step back first. I want to state that for the record. People don't realize that.
Yeah, no, I didn't do too much step back stuff. I just tried to get the spot and get elevated and get the shot off before the defense closed out.
Okay, 3 more. Gel or hairspray?
Gel.
You or your brother Jay, who won the national championship at Michigan State when you play one-on-one?
I would.
even though he's got 5 inches on you. Okay,
Right.
Here we go. Last question.
But he can't catch me. Yep.
That's right.
One.
He can't catch you. Okay. Normally we ask a yoga question, but Gordon's not here because Gordon and I both teach yoga, and we always ask, if you were going to take a yoga class, who would it be? So this one's for John and I, special addition to the Sports Deli, this or that segment. If you were going to play 2-on-2 with your brother and John and I, and you had the first pick, would you select me or John in the first round?
John.
God
I
dang
got the
it.
shot. You just keep Sam, you could just keep feeding me, baby. Just keep feeding me.
He looks a little bit bigger than you. I think I'd put him in the post. He'd probably be able to,
Man.
get the book.
And then we'd have a celebratory dinner at Waffle House. It would be awesome.
Nothing, Michael, I need a post player.
Man, see, he doesn't even know I'm a pro skills trainer. That's messed up. It's all good. Me and Jay will get after it. Let's go. Well, listen, Sam, you're doing amazing things. Your attitude is just, I only remember you on the court, just being a grinder and, just what you're doing now is amazing, and
Thank
keep paying it forward. And thank you so much for coming on. Big shout out to Barbara Pinson Lash too for connecting us. And we hope you enjoyed your experience with us. And like I said, we're just trying to pay it forward in our own way. So thanks again for coming on after a long drive.
My pleasure, man. Great to meet you guys. Keep safe.
Thanks,
All right,
Sam.
you
Take
too.
care.
Mask up. All right. Much love. All right.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. Who needs Gordon? Gordon's taking a nap. Grumpier old men.
He's dissecting a computer.
Eating his yogurt and his salad.
The new sushi truck just stopped off at the grocery store.
The new sushi truck. Sam was great. Well, I really enjoyed that.
He looks fantastic, by the way.
Oh man, he looked amazing. And I hope it was all right to ask that question about magic. I thought
You always cannot answer it.
yeah,
That was a good question.
but I thought I was surprised by his answer. I didn't know he would say how disappointed he was. But that's what your best friends that you grew up with will tell you. The truth.
We didn't even know. That's unbelievable that he toured Bias around Boston.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
I don't think anybody knows that
It
story.
didn't even come. When they did the documentary on Bias, it wasn't in that.
Nope, not at all. All right, good job.
Later. Yeah, you too.
All right, later. Thanks so much for joining us again today. Remember, you can always send us an email to thesportsdeli@gmail.com. Please check out our website at thesportsdelipodcast.com. And you can check me out on all social media platforms at Mike Hootner, whether it's TikTok, Twitter, or Instagram. Also, wanted to remind all of you, if you're having a tough time, you can always call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And that number is 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. And they are available 24/7, 365 days a year. Thanks again to our amazing sponsors, Breaking Tea, Sport RX, PSK Collective, City Lokes, and Moolah Kicks, which you can see right here up on the screen. You can search them online at breakingtea.com, sportrx.com, pskcollective.com, moolahkicks.com, and citylokes.com. Remember, Black Lives Matter. Stop the Asian hate. Stop the bullying. And please contact your local and state politicians for any group or individual that you feel is being marginalized. And remember, it takes a village. And until next time, for Dr. J and Coach K, I'm Hootie Hoot. Much love. Peace.